Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Um, Here we all are. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I'm Bill Miller. Today is my guest is Thomas Luksa. Thomas is around all the time because he's a VP for the Cloud Voice Alliance, who's our sponsor. But today we're going to share his story, which is an interesting background, which I think you'll all find interesting. And he has an interesting company. Thomas, like many of us, have been in the telecom world well over 25 years. And like a few others that, before him, he comes from the technical side background. And he's lucky enough to have worked for the RBOX, the regional Bell operating companies, which many people have worked for in the past. Now, maybe still with them, but many went off and did their own startup. And that is what Thomas did. And he founded Landstar in 2004. So he's now 20 years into business and can share a lot of stories with us. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bill.
Hopefully you can tell us how you got into telecom and tell us about your experiences.
Well, it wasn't planned. I'll tell you that. Sometimes you find yourself in the right spot at the right time. Some call it luck, some call it fate, and that's the way it was supposed to happen, right? So, after I moved back home after working for SBC, which eventually turned into Southwestern Bell and then AT&T. I had many different jobs. I couldn't seem to find anything I liked, and turned into be a pretty frustrating journey, really, because just job hopping, right? But little did I know that working for all of these businesses in different industries would ultimately prepare me for what I'm doing today and with our team. So I did start what would eventually become Landstar Telecom in 2004. And so Landstar is the evolution or the culmination of things that have transpired over the past 20 years. Trying to find our way in this world, so to speak, right? Which has ultimately led us to where we are now. But throughout that journey, we learned a lot, we suffered a lot, and definitely failed a lot. And I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, how in the wide world of sports are we even still here, right? But at the end of it all, one thing has always remained consistent. It's being transparent to the customer, empathizing with them the best way we can, and just patting them on the back, so figuratively speaking, and helping them along their journey so they can be productive. And it's like Zig Ziglar said in one of his books, to help before you can get what you want, you got to help other people get what they want. And we've kind of led with that, and that's part of our philosophy here. It's less about us and always 100% about the customer, and that has ultimately brought us to where we are today, and we continue to grow that way.
No, that's fantastic. And you're in the world of UCAS and VoIP and everything else where everybody here is. You're in an interesting region because you guys get a lot of rain and tropical storms and hurricanes. How has that affected your business over the years?
So when we talk to potential client, we always talk about things that can happen, right? The theory of things. Hey, you can take your phone home, and you can do this, and you can do that. But it wasn't until a couple of years ago, and some people may remember this, we had Hurricane Harvey, which really did a number on a lot of communities around the coastal Bend area. That'd be Corpus Christi, up then up north the coastline to Houston. Um, and, a lot of these businesses were destroyed. The physical structures were destroyed in some of these areas. And then all of a sudden, we started getting phone calls from these people. Hey, can you help me reset my voicemail password? And I'm like, how are these people still functioning? I wasn't even thinking. And I said, how are y'all at the office? Because, we were so focused on the bigger event. They're like, oh no, we just did what you told us to do. I was like, what did I tell you to do? You said just take our phones anywhere that there's an internet connection and we could still work. So I was like, oh yeah, I did say that. So we were so focused on the bigger event, weather system, that we totally forgot about these people. They didn't call and ask us. They just pick up and went, right? And we kind of sat back and thought about that for a minute. And, wow, it actually does work. I mean, we knew it worked. But to have a customer or client actually follow that instruction and do it was kind of cool, because usually it's not until after the fact that that kind of stuff comes to light and the customer's, oh my gosh, what do we do? What do we do? We didn't have that situation because we already had them programmed to do it. But it does occur every now and then. Just yesterday, if anyone watching this webinar saw the Weather Channel or anything like that, we have a tropical storm develop in the Gulf of Mexico. And even though we were not in its direct path, we definitely saw a significant amount of rain and weather being on the north edge of that system. So as because of that, some areas down here got upward 7 inches of rain in 24 hours, which is a lot, so there's nowhere for the water to go. It can't soak into the ground fast enough, so it just kind of sits there in pools, right? So people can't get to the office, people can't leave the office, they don't want to drive in the weather, or maybe power goes out, right? So a lot of times people will just simply call us, hey, look, we're going to be working from home. We just want to make sure the mobile app's working. Yes, it's working. Or maybe just forward the calls to my cell phone. Do that for me, and we accommodate the best we know how, and that's by not saying no. So, as long as we keep we're able to keep them communicating with their clients, I feel like we've done our job.
That's fantastic. Yes, yeah. We saw the weather on the news earlier today with going through your region. So you guys, your area hit the hit the big time news in weather.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you had lots of failures over the last 20 years building the company. What are the top 2 or 3 challenges that you were hit with that you overcame, and what have you put in place to prevent those kinds of challenges from happening again?
I call those expensive mistakes because they end up costing me lots of money. That, hindsight's always 20/20, but I digress. So as a relatively new business owner, you open up a company. What's one of the first things that happens? You start showing up on people's radar, specifically salespeople, right? So, you're in the MSP space. We have this fabulous tool that's going to solve all your problems. And they show you all the positive stuff, right? And you can quickly become enamored with all the shininess of things, right? So, and you want to lead with your best foot. You want to look good to potential clients, so you jump into that, right? And then 3 months later, like, yeah, this isn't working the way it was advertised. And, oh, well, we're sorry, you have a 3-year contract. And I'm like, oh my God, that was not communicated, or something like that. But, very quickly you learn that, hey, it's, I wish I had that article that you sent me the other day on the 23 ways to say no back then. But, it's okay to say no, right? And think the big thing is always research. Never stop researching stuff, right? Because there always is better ways to do things, but maybe the way you need to do things right now is the way you're doing it. And but don't jump into something hastily only because somebody told you to do it, right? Trust but verify. So that happened to me several times, and it happened, right? And but now, I don't want to say we're in a situation of once bitten, twice shy. We don't trust anyone. We do trust people, but I've learned, and the team has learned, don't take everything with a grain of salt. Do some digging, do some research, and find out what's really under the top layers of things, because and talk to other people who use the product, and that's what we encourage our customers to do when they come and look at us. Hey, we're going to tell you all the positive stuff, right? And we'll tell you some of the challenges that we've had as a company and how we've addressed that to overcome those situations. But don't take our word for it. Talk to these people. Go look at our Google reviews. The proof is in the pudding, right? And so once they do that, or if they take the opportunity to do that, they always come back and they're like, where do we sign? Because what you do may be no different than who we're using today, but the experience that my employees have when they interface with the company that we use today is really lackluster, right? There's no communication. There's no personal connection, right? And when they come to us, we spoil them because we really, really take care of them. And it's like, hey, look, we may not be your friend, but we care about what's happening, and we want to work together with you to solve this problem. And we don't rush through it. We don't have to be off the call in 5 minutes. Sometimes resolving a problem takes a little while, right? But once the solution is implemented, the customer is truly appreciative of that we took the time with them to solve that problem. And they stick around. So when they get courted by other companies, or there's an attempt to court them, to steal their business away from us, they basically say no. It's like, why would we? Because how do I know you're going to give us that personal attention that Landstar Telecom does? I don't know that. So no, I'm just going to stay where I'm at. And so our customer retention rate's really, really high. And the only time we've lost customers is if they're a price shopper, and everybody has that, but they eventually come back. So did we really lose them? Or we lost several customers during the shelter-in-place period in 2020. They were older business owners. They're like, why are we still working? We should be retired, enjoying our families, seeing grandkids and stuff. So that whole situation in and of itself was kind of like the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, right? They just kind of closed up shop and they retired. And some of them still keep in touch with us today. They're like, hey, we're just calling to see how y'all are doing, which is kind of weird.
Pretty good.
But it's cool. Yeah. And then unfortunately, some of them succumb to the economics of things during that time as well, right? They just couldn't continue functioning. And it was sad and unfortunate that happened to them. But we worked through those challenges, right? And the good thing is, a lot of the people that we helped, we deferred tons of payments during that time. Some of them, we basically said, hey, there's no bill, right? And what can we do to help you push through this? So we gave up a lot. We suffered with our clients. And then when things came back, we celebrated with them too, because some of them came back stronger than ever. We have one particular dentist up in San Antonio that, he had 4 offices, and, of course they couldn't function, and we scaled him back down to maybe 2 or 3 hosted extensions. We weren't billing him for MSP services because nobody was at the office. Put everything on a pause, really. And so that was a huge decrease in revenue for us, but we were able to manage. And when he came back, he ended up opening 4 more locations, got us in touch with another doctor with 15 locations, and then another DSO, right? So we were super busy. So for the amount of time that we weren't doing anything in 2020, we made up for it in the following years, and then some. Yeah. So it's really crazy. I'm really interested to hear some other folks attending some of their stories, their experiences too, because there's a lot to learn from that. And it's just really strange how things work out. We never planned it. We never expected it. We just handled what was happening right then and there, and nature took its course and rewarded us, I guess, for paying a lot of that stuff forward and helping these people. It's but then, you make mistakes along the way, and you just kind of roll with it and fix it on the fly. And, we're human. And as long as we're transparent with our customers and transparent with our vendors and our friends and everyone around us, that builds trust, right? And I think that's the most important piece of it all, is the trust of things. Because without trust, you have nothing, and you've always got a customer who's always shopping for the next best deal if they don't trust you.
Well, you mentioned a few things part of that story. One was your reviews. So one of the things to do for new clients and for retention are you got referrals, reference accounts, case studies of customers that are willing to share and maybe write something for your website or whatever, and testimonials, right, which are in the form of either, some people put videos on their website, some people put them on LinkedIn, some people just have them for when customers ask, because they want to know what type of business you are. Anyway, those are just things I picked up in your story. We also, when we were prepping for this, I told you about the next book that I'm writing, which is the top mistakes that CEOs make, and right, how could you have avoided it, and how did you recover from it? Is that, you talked about, what would be the one mistake that you think was the biggest one that you ever made? How could you have avoided it, and how did you recover from it?
If I could turn back time, I'd probably seek out individuals like yourself because you're seasoned, and you have a wealth of information. It's people like you, Bill, that I think a lot of new CEOs or new business owners really need to pay attention to, because there's a wealth of experience and wisdom, not with just you, but other business owners too, those of us who are in this field that have kind of run through the gamut of pitfalls and things, right? And we're still here, right? So there's something to be said about that. I think at the beginning, I was really more concerned about, releasing too much information, sharing too much information. Who can I trust? How do I know I'm going to talk to that person and then they're just going to try and befriend me to steal my business, right? Because there's a lot of that goes on. And unfortunately, it does happen, and it still happens today. But I think with the organizations that I surround myself with, CVA, a lot of the people who are part of, our the white label group that we're part of. I'm thankfully, that's a great group of folks, and I really wish that I had surrounded myself with people like that beforehand, because I could have been worlds ahead of where I'm at today. So I think if I had to give anyone some advice, like, man, you need to find a really good, solid support group, whether that's your white label provider and the group that they have, or an organization like CVA. You really need to get connected with like-minded folks, right? Because together you can strengthen each other, and be more profitable and be more successful. Because if you try to do it on your own, and you're always looking over your shoulder because you're afraid somebody's going to chase you down, you actually go backwards in that situation. And that's what happened to me at the very, very beginning. And it wasn't until I went to my first IT Expo, which was the last one in Las Vegas, where we got to see Steve Wozniak and all that. It was a great time. And it was actually my wife's idea to do it. She goes, "Hey, you're in technology. We should go. It'll be like a mini vacation, business expense, but you get to learn something along the way." And it wasn't until we went to that that some folks kind of put their arm around me and said, "Hey, this is what you need to do." And that's where the whole hosted voice stuff started back then. And it's only grew from there. But man, if I had done that sooner, I could have met some of these people sooner. I could have learned some of the things that we could do as a company to drive revenue north and do different things. But for us, I think everything happened the way it was supposed to happen, because the information that we gained and gleaned from all of that, it's more valuable to us, and it's respected a little bit more, right? Otherwise,
Okay.
to be spoon-fed all of that stuff automatically, we probably wouldn't have valued the information as much.
Mm-hmm. So peer groups, there's a lot of peer groups for MSPs. Some are sponsored, by, organizations like the Cloud Voice Alliance. Some are some are part of distributors. Value-added distributors have, I know Ingram has that type of a situation, and like-minded people are MSPs like yourself, and they're senior leaders, and they attend in recent years Zoom meetings, but they also have live meetings, which are very valuable. So glad to hear that. So let's kind of move a little bit more about the business side and the technology side. What are the top trends that you're seeing in MSPs and in your business? And we did talk a little bit about this, the use of AI and AI-enabled telecoms for small and medium-sized businesses, which is, I'm sure, your target.
Right.
You haven't really started to do much theory yet, but
No,
some of the people, some of the people here and some of the people in the Cloud Voice Alliance, like Bill McLean, of course, have already done a lot with AI. What are your thoughts on the trends in the future?
It's kind of like I told you the other day. It's definitely a buzz, right? It's not going anywhere. There's a lot of uncharted territory, right? In the technology of things and the legality of things, right? So for us, we could really jump into it head first, I guess, but there's a lot of things to consider. There's what are the legal implications of using AI? I think that's a big one. I just saw a post from Jonathan Marashland just a little while ago on LinkedIn. You probably saw it too, about, what's the legal liability around AI, and it really depends on how you're going to use it. So, there's many different ways you can utilize AI, I believe, but you really have to figure out what exactly is that going to be, identify what are the legal implications of doing so, and how do I protect myself against anything negative from that, right? So it's more than just, hey, let's implement AI. As a business owner, you really have to be mindful about all the other little stuff around it. Otherwise, we'll be having another webinar about, I used AI and how do I avoid the pitfalls of doing so, which I hope we never see, right? Because that would be unfortunate. But yeah, it's not going anywhere. Would I like to implement AI? I've got a million ideas in my head on how to do that, but we have staffing constraints, financial constraints that may prohibit us from jumping headfirst into that right now. But I would really like to see where the FCC goes with this stuff, kind of laying some of the groundwork and the rules of what to do and what not to do. A lot of it's common sense, and see how that would affect what we want to do, and then kind of slowly jump into that. But I think long term we'll have to implement or adopt some AI just to be competitive, right? I mean, there's no way around it. So there's no avoiding it. And so because of that, we have to start looking into it and see and be mindful about how we want to implement that and where.
So this past February at IT Expo, I moderated and created this panel that I call CEO Insights. And this year it was the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI for business.
Yep.
And on that panel are some familiar names for the people here. Bill McLean, Dave George, and Dan Rosenrausch, which most people, if not all, know. And you can get to that recording on my YouTube channel. Just search for Beeline Bill, which is my brand online, and you'll find my YouTube channel there. But the entire recording is there, unedited from the time it started till the time it finished. So it's really interesting that so many people are playing with AI and doing something with it. And next year, I will be doing another panel at IT Expo, and it's going to be, we don't have the title yet, but I do have a couple of people committed to join me that are actually doing implementations of Gen AI in UCAS world. And they have very specific use cases with real customers that will be completed by next February. So if you're going to be at IT Expo, you might want to join. I'll also record that and put that on my YouTube channel. But there's a lot going on, and yeah, people have concerns about liabilities, but people are using it for automation. They're using it for contact centers, inbound and outbound call centers. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And of course, Bill McLean, Jody Gonzalez, they have Upon AI that are building very specific UCAS applications, and they're learning along the way. So it is interesting. Everybody has an opinion. You tell us, and I appreciate you sharing what your concerns are, and it's fair. It's fair. My opinion is you should find someone on your team, your small team, who has an interest, and just start playing with some automation with Gen AI that doesn't have legal liabilities, just automation of your process, and at least get started with learning how to do it. Anyway, we'll move on from there. Just my opinion.
Yeah. But kind of a funny thing about IT Expo in February. My wife and I were there. We got to have dinner with you, and we sat down for one of the AI sessions, right? And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And she looks over at me and says, everywhere I look around, it's all AI this, AI that. And she goes, why didn't they just use AI to do the presentation? Why did they use PowerPoint? I said, I don't know. You should go ask them. I'm not. but it's there's a lot of innocence in that, right? Because and that's why she's one of the members of our team. We're looking at the technical aspect of things so much that we often overlook some of the simplest of items, right? So, and that's why she's there. She asks that very simple question that nobody has the guts to ask, and the light bulb goes off. And you're like, oh yeah,
Well,
that's easy.
For what it's worth, you can type in a bulleted list of what you want to present, and ChatGPT and Claude and all these, Copilot, all these Gen AI tools, they can create the PowerPoint or Canva presentation for you. So it's already there, for what that's worth. Anyway, let's kind of move on to a little bit of a interest. To me, it's a very interesting topic. We also talked about this one, So I start with the question: what is next for you in 24 and 25? And before you answer, I asked you to consider what should we plan for with the upcoming election, because starting with the upcoming debate between our two, I'm not sure if they're most favorite, colorful, or least colorful presidential candidates in a rematch that totally hate each other, but they impact the office.
Sure.
They impact our customers. They impact our supply chain. What type of blind spots do you see coming up in 24 and 25 because of the political uncertainty and the uncertainty about the wars around the world and inflation, things like that? Tell us what you think.
Well, I am not going to break the cardinal rule of discussing religion and politics, but
that's not the intent of the question.
I know, and I'm not trying to skirt around it either. It's one thing's for sure. There have been a lot of elections in our histories past that have fundamentally shaped the direction of our country and other countries too, right? That there's no arguing that. And I believe, and they all have had some impact, whether it's positive or negative, right? And again, it depends on who you ask, right? So that much is true. I think we can all agree on that. But I believe that this election is extremely important because the outcome of this election will, I believe, determine the path of our country long term, right? And then once we go down that road, there may be no coming back one way or the other, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm paying real close attention to it. So there's two possible outcomes, right? But only one will be chosen. But that's what we need to really pay attention to, because I've always, when I run my business, I always prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right? So that way, when something bad does happen, it's okay. We can weather that storm. So my advice is be prepared no matter what, whether it's an election, it's a weather event or anything, a war, make sure you have multiple options for procuring equipment. Make friends with other business owners that are like-minded, because in an event where you need to reach out and get some help, those alliances have been created, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. And you know what? After the election, maybe everything's great. And hey, I've prepared. I don't have to worry about anything, or if things go really south, depending on who you are and how you feel about things, you've prepared and you're okay. And you can live to fight another day and continue helping your customers. I think that's the important piece of it, right? Because it'd be very easy to go down the rabbit hole and, have heated discussion about, who's best option to win and why not and all these other things. But I think it's important to pay attention to those items. Very important. But it's even more important to not fixate on them and focus on what's in front of you. How do I keep my house in order, right? How do I make sure that regardless of what happens in November, I can continue to serve my customers and continue to enjoy or labor in this thing that we've created for ourselves, right? Because to put so much effort into it just to lose it, it's a sad thing for me to see happen to folks, right? So
Okay.
I don't know what else to say about that really, Bill. It's just
No,
be
it's
prepared.
fair. You, that's a good hit. A lot of people just take things as they come, but some people
Yeah.
over prepare. If you think back to Y2K, I don't know if you lived through Y2K.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
we over prepared. I mean, I was with Fujitsu at the time, and we had a follow the sun. I was on the senior leadership team, so we had a follow the sun team, global team, and everybody. We spent a lot of time and money to prepare for Y2K, and nothing happened. So
Right.
the argument is, did nothing happen because nothing was ever going to happen, or did nothing happen because we did so much planning? That argument still exists, but
Right.
my
Yeah.
argument, I'm on the side of be prepared. Anyway, a few more questions before we kind of wrap up and let people have their day back.
Sure.
How do you utilize social media, especially LinkedIn, for business? I noticed that you had a post this morning, so.
I did have a post this morning, and I'm really uh, don't look to me as an example, anybody, because I think I'm the worst. I think there's a lot of people who post a lot. And then there's me, right? So we have a social media company that we've been working with for a few years, and they'll post nuggets of stuff up there. But then, occasionally, I'll come across something that I'm like, wow, that little conference room that we helped the client with that I posted about today, they've been a customer of ours for years, but they've never talked about the conference room. And, we've never seen them use it. It's just been a storage room for them for the most part. But they've been doing a lot more virtual meetings, right? And then they're a pretty big architecture design firm. And so they like, how do we fix this? Because they can't hear anything that we're saying. And I said, well, let's take a look at your conference room. And on top of a 65-inch TV, they have a little Logitech webcam, which would be great if it was from here to there. But 20 feet across the room, it's not very effective. So I said, well, look, we can solve the problem. Just spend a little bit of money, but it's going to be night and day difference. And we implemented this solution, and they're like, wow, not even our corporate office has this. So now the corporate office, they want a piece of the action too. They don't want to be left behind. But it was a very small improvement overall, but the effect was huge, right? So that was something that I felt that was worthy of posting. I don't want to post stuff just to post it. I wanted to be meaningful. And so that's why I posted what I did today. Some of the smallest improvements have huge benefit, right? And that's what a lot of people need to know, that look, it doesn't have to be a big gargantuan project to be noteworthy. Even something really small can have huge impact and really change how the customer does business and how they're perceived.
Mhm. Okay. So, what advice would you give to other CEOs and leaders who may be struggling with acquiring new customers, personnel, or any other day-to-day challenges you can think of off the top of your head?
Um, Come on in, the water's nice. I mean, it's everybody's having that same challenge, It's we go through it too. How do I know that they're gonna gel with the rest of the team? Because one bad apple can spoil the bunch. Man,
Mm-hmm.
that's the big question mark I face every day. Because we have a great team and the customers love them. They talk about them in our Google reviews by name. And I want to hire more people, but I don't want to hire more people because what if we get the wrong person, and then it just destroys the whole dynamic. So those are all valid concerns. But you learn to properly vet a potential employee or interviewee. It's yeah, you learn these things along the way, but don't give up, right? You just got to keep at it. And then, unfortunately, don't not unfortunately, but again, don't be afraid to fire that which you hire. If you can hire them, be
You
prepared
can
to
fire
fire
them.
them too.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's unfortunate. It really stinks to have to go through that. Some people are better at it than others because they're emotionally disconnected, right? So it's just like, okay, well, you're gone, you're
Yeah.
done, goodbye. But it's a big thing to be on your shoulders because it does affect someone's livelihood. But
Right.
but yeah, that's why I think a lot of thought and consideration needs to go into before hiring people, instead of just to hire them to have a big team. It's like you shared with me the other day. It happens in athletic teams all the time.
Mm-hmm. Sure does.
Yeah.
All right. So one more question before we get to the brief lightning round at the end here. What is one factoid that no one really knows about you that you're willing to share with us?
A lot of people are shocked when they ask me, "Oh my God, well, where did you go to school? Your degree and stuff like that." I said, "Well, I don't have a degree. I did have some college. I didn't finish, and there's a reason for that. It's mostly because of my upbringing. My parents were pretty rough on us. We worked in the yard every Saturday. If we had no idle time, right? Idle hands are the devil's workshop, right? Kind of thing. And I hated living at home because I was always working, always doing chores, always doing dishes, doing something. But look at me now. I'm always working, always doing something, always working in the yard. They've created a monster. So, but I love them for it because I'm able to take care of my family and I'm not afraid to do what it takes to do that. Um, the other, I was homeschooled, throughout most of my life, and I think I'm pretty personable. I get along with a lot of different folks. A lot of people argued that, oh, they're not ever going to be able to socialize. I think I've proved I've debunked that myth,
You,
right?
you can be a
Um,
successful CEO and business owner being homeschooled and not having a college degree. That's what you prove,
yeah, I
right?
managed to do it somehow. Yeah, and but when I was in college, my primary major was music, and my instrument was my voice. So I was a vocal
Oh,
performance major in college
oh,
with a minor in business finance. I didn't finish it. Hindsight, I really applaud those who go through school and finish the higher education. And every now and then, you'll catch myself wondering, what if I finished? What if?
hmm.
But I'm not willing to go back in time and trade that for what we have now and the friendships that I have. Because if I did finish, uh, the likelihood of us even having this webinar today, it probably would have never happened. and I really
All right.
appreciate the opportunity to share.
That's great. All right. Lightning round. Two quick questions.
Go
Since the
for it.
pandemic started in March of 2020, what is the one thing in your life that has changed permanently, not just because you had to change at the pandemic? What did you had to, we all had to change something in our lives. What is it that changed permanently for you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Um, be We've all been more conscious or aware of others, um, and what specifically, everybody has their reasons for doing things. Don't judge them. Don't judge them. Hey, we're here to help you solve a challenge. I'm not here to judge you because you're wearing something or not. You know, you're we're here to accommodate you. So, and so in business, it's not our job to judge, right? But some people do, right? Uh, Good for them or bad for them. That's their business, not mine. But here at Landstar Telecom, one of the things that we do not judge you because of your beliefs. All we know is that the common denominator is that you have a problem that you paid us to solve. We're going to solve it, no matter what.
All
So
right.
if you want us to wear a mask, we'll wear a mask. We're here to help you. So it, it sounds, you laugh, but hey, it's all about the customer. They're the ones who pay our paychecks. They're our biggest asset, right?
So I've had some interesting answers because I asked that question in various interviews, not just CEO success story. Just a sec. Excuse me. Some people stopped traveling. Other people started traveling. Some people still wear masks in public areas. Uh, some people learned that they don't need to go in the office every day. And so, as a CEO, they've implemented hybrid or work from home is fine. Uh, my change is that we still use hand sanitizer after we go in public place because viruses still do pass, flus and viruses, whatever, still pass from various places. So we still use hand sanitizer. That's probably the biggest change.
And I
Although,
drank out of the water hose growing up, and I'm still fine. Maybe
yeah,
that's part of my problem. I don't know, but no,
yeah,
it's yeah, things have changed for sure.
yeah. Well, I became an author, so I got laid off from my final corporate role at Fiber Mountain at the beginning of the pandemic. And at my age, I decided never to go back to work. So I wrote my book, which everybody sees in the emails, right? The Rookie CEO, you can't make this stuff
Yeah,
up. All the CEOs in there are all technology CEOs that I work directly for, and there's some pretty great stories and learnings in there. But I became an author, now working on my second book, and semi-retired. I have some consulting engagements that I do. Some come directly from the book. There's a lead magnet in the book. So those are the changes for me.
right.
Um, so that leads us to the next question, and the last one is, what is the last book you read, and how has it helped you?
Well, I've read books to pass time. They don't really help me, right? It's just more of like I'm just kind of curious to see what's in there. Um, I think your book, I read it on the way home from IT Expo after you gave it to me
Hmm.
because it's either that or watch the movies on the plane. I thought, you know what, I need to do something a little bit more insightful. I should read the book, right? So I read the book. Um, like, man, these are just people like me. You know, this could be any one of us, and you know, and but at the same time, I'm like, man, I have so much to learn have so much to learn, you know. So
Hmm.
it just reminded me that whatever I know now, you know, do I deserve that information or not? You know, I don't know, but you know, how do I use it going forward is what's really going to determine what happens to me personally and us as a company. But additionally, it's just a reminder. It's like how much I don't know, but
Hmm.
and why I need to be aware and really take the time to listen to people like yourself, you know, the Bill McLeans of the world or the Jeff Dworkins they've been around, they've seen a lot of different things, you know, and there is a wealth of information that can be learned just by spending a little bit of time, and and to me that's what I find most valuable, right?
Fantastic. Well, all I can say is I want to thank you for your time, your energy today, agreeing to do this. Dale Morgan had put in the chat that he also did not complete his degree, and he's a
Uh,
serial entrepreneur CEO. So
oh
I think
wow.
that's great, and I congratulated him. So he had put a comment in the chat. So you're not alone, right? I in my book, if you remember, I do write about the fact that anybody can become a CEO.
Yes.
Anybody, and I in these days with the kids who are very good at social, everything from TikTok to creating videos. I mean, little young kids and their parents become their managers. All of a sudden, as they grow their business, they become a CEO of something, and they really don't know anything about business or people or anything. They only know what they learned. And so you get a lot of kids that become CEOs, start their own companies. They don't go through what many of us went through, which is working at corporations, large, small startups. I mean, I've been in the
Right.
multi-billion-dollar corporations a few times, from Rockwell, 3Com, Fujitsu, multi-billion-dollar corporations, to
Hmm.
small startups in Silicon Valley where I joined them on seed money. So I've been that route, and I bring 5 decades of experience to share, and I stay totally up to date because Connie, who you met at dinner at IT Expo, she's a marketing consultant, and all of her clients are technology, and they're
Right.
all so she works with a lot of offshore companies that want to market in the U.S. But I stay up to date on all the tools and AI and all kinds of things that way. And that's the only advice I would give to a lot of people is stay up to date on as many of the tools as you can.
Oh
Take
yes.
30 minutes to an hour a week and follow influencers on LinkedIn, see what they're doing. Bill McLean is phone Bill for a reason. He's created an identity, a personal brand, and a lead generation machine for his business. And
Yep.
that's the value if you, as a CEO, choose to start writing stories. I mean, there are LinkedIn coaches out there. There are tools, AI tools that can help you formulate your background into a content calendar and a series of posts. And obviously you have to put all your own background into it. But the fact
Right.
is, you can build a personal brand that helps position your company, and you're seeing it online. Bill McLean is just a great person in which to learn from. Now, when I was doing all the emails, Jeff had asked me to put the replay from the social media with Stephanie Benzik and Bill, town hall.
Yes.
So the link to that is in all those emails. People should go back and take a look at that because Stephanie posts all the time. Follow Stephanie. I mean, her company is selling, but they're also giving away some freebie stuff. So,
Yep.
Green Star Marketing, which is Dave George's company, and Stephanie, who posts a lot, follow those people. Start learning and then start using it. Even if just tax everybody has a lot to do, but tax your week, 30 minutes or something on a Sunday night or whatever, and just learn this stuff, stay up to date and use it. And and once you see how other people do it, you can kind of emulate them, but use with your own stories. It'll keep you up to date.
Something came to mind, Bill, that I think, and I think one of the biggest challenges that I had was not trusting individuals in my team to perform a task, right? And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think this is really important to say. But I think
That's
if
good.
you need to, we really need to learn to trust our team to be able to perform their jobs. And when they can't, that's okay, because that's an opportunity to learn,
Well,
right? And
you
to
become a
educate.
coach. You become
Yes.
the coach for those people,
Right.
and then if they make
Right.
the same thing after you coach them, if they can't do it, then you have to terminate them. Really, I hate to say that, but you have to.
Yeah.
But you,
And
the first time,
but I bring,
everybody makes mistakes, right? Everyone.
yeah, but I'm bringing this up because you made the comment is like, just take a little bit of time and do this, but I find myself a victim of things to do, right? And I'm always manufacturing things to do. Social media is not one of those things. I posted something today, but when's the next time, right? Who knows? But part of that is being able to take these items that are on your plate as a CEO and give them to someone else. Bookkeeping and accounting is a big one. We for the first time in all of these years, we finally have a full-time bookkeeper accountant on staff.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, my goodness gracious, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? What was I thinking? So, take those tasks, offload them to people you can trust, and then you can start focusing on other things like building the company, making sure all these other pieces of the puzzle are in the right place, right? Social media, right? So I'm working on getting there, but that's just one of my challenges, right? So yes, yes, and yes to everything that you said. But yeah, learn. It's okay to take things off your plate and give them to somebody else. So I felt that was important to say.
All right. Well, again, thank you for everything. You've been open and honest and transparent, which is who you are in your business today. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. It has been a pleasure getting to know you since IT Expo, but certainly through this project. I always get to know the people that I interview quite well, and it's very enjoyable. You learn about people's path to CEO, their philosophies, their leadership styles, and that all leads to the company culture, which you've talked about. That's the whole that's the whole premise of my book. That your path to CEO, whatever it was, the philosophies that you've developed throughout your career and your life, the leadership styles that you have based on your philosophy and your background, create the culture of the company that you have built. I'm
Indeed.
sure Dale would agree with me. He's the CEO of his company. You are, other people that I've had on here, and others that run their company. One of these days, I'll get some of the other CEOs that are here to participate the same way you did. It's great for the CVA, and it's great for the attendees to learn from others. That's the whole point of all of
Absolutely.
this, and get to know you. So thanks again for that. Um,
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bill.
how would people find you if if people want to connect with you on LinkedIn? They can just go and
Then
search your name.
they can connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, and then from there we can continue the conversation. I love visiting and helping people because it's something that I did not get when I started. So I think it's really cool that I can help somebody avoid some of that, right? I just hope that the advice that I give is good, sound advice. I really hope that what I'm doing is right. But if it's not correct, I own it, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
look at it, or I'll say I really don't know how to answer that question. And then I try to find them someone who does know the answer, because it's one of those things I wish I had when I started, but
Right.
now I have the opportunity to help somebody along their way.
Right. Well, again, thank you. And thanks to everybody who hung around. People are just starting to leave now, but they hung around for the whole hour. I did not expect it to take an hour. Usually it's less, but you like to share detailed stories, so it's
Thank
very
you.
much appreciated. Thank you, everybody. And until next CEO success story, everybody take care, stay cool if you're in that hot area of our country, and stay safe if you're in tornado country
That's
and
right.
hurricane
Yeah.
country. So take care, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Bye.